There's something strange about satellite images that almost no one talks about. Not what they show, but what they never show. No matter which satellite provider you use, no matter which country launches it, no matter how advanced the technology becomes, there is always a center that cannot be seen. Not blurred randomly, not obscured by clouds, not hidden by resolution limits, blocked perfectly. At first glance, it looks normal. White space, missing data, a sensor error. But when researchers began overlaying satellite images from different years, different agencies, and different orbits, the missing area never moved. Same coordinates, same shape, same silence. This shouldn't be possible. Satellites don't all orbit the same way. They don't use the same cameras. They don't share raw data. Yet somehow, they all agree on what not to show. That's when analysts notice something even stranger. The center isn't hidden after the images are captured. It's missing before they're transmitted, meaning the satellites see it, but the data is never sent, which implies a command, an override, something that tells every system, regardless of nation or purpose, do not record this. Governments deny coordination, but coordination is exactly what this requires. Then came the anomaly reports. Satellites passing directly over the center experience brief disruptions. Clock drift, signal loss, gyroscopic instability only for seconds, just long enough to skip a frame. Engineers refer to it as non-recoverable null data, not corruption, absence, as if the camera was told to look away. Some independent researchers believe the center isn't hidden, it's masked. A cloaking effect that bends electromagnetic signals. Light doesn't bounce back the same way. Radar doesn't reflect properly, infrared readings flatten. To a satellite, the center appears blank. Not white, not black, blank. And blank data is automatically discarded. Convenient. Others believe the center emits something stronger, a frequency that interferes with imaging systems. Not destructive, selective, like a jamming signal that only activates when observed from above. Which raises the obvious question, why would something on Earth be designed to avoid satellites? Satellites weren't around until recently, unless whatever is there wasn't designed for us. Ancient maps complicate this further. Several pre-modern maps depict a central zone that cartographers refused to detail, not because they didn't know what was there, but because they were told not to record it. Legends describe a place where the sky eye is blind, a region that cannot be seen from above, only entered from the side, only approached, never observed. Modern pilots report something similar. Aircraft flying near the coordinates experience instrument flickers, not failures, warnings, as if the systems are being politely discouraged. Military satellites reportedly classify the center as a persistent exclusion zone, not restricted airspace. Exclusion, meaning nothing is allowed to interact with it directly, not even observation. One leaked briefing slide reportedly asked a chilling question. If the center is hidden from above, what is it visible from? Because something that avoids satellites may still expect visitors, just not from space. And here's the part that unsettles even skeptics. When satellite coverage briefly improves, during solar storms or calibration glitches, the center doesn't appear gradually. It snaps into existence for a single frame, geometric shapes, sharp angles, artificial symmetry, then it's gone, as if the system realized it had been seen and corrected itself, which suggests intelligence, not natural terrain, not coincidence, intention. Some believe the center is a structure, others believe it's an entrance, and a few believe it's neither. They believe it's a boundary, a line that must never be crossed from above. Because if satellites can't see the center, then maybe the center isn't meant to be observed. Maybe it's meant to be entered. And that's why the world's most advanced eyes in the sky always look away at the same place. What makes the center truly disturbing isn't just that satellites can't show it. It's how long this limitation has existed. Declassified aerospace documents reveal that early satellite programs encountered the same issue decades ago, long before modern digital processing, before AI corrections, before automated censorship. Even the first primitive imaging systems returned the same result. Nothing. Engineers initially blamed hardware limitations, but when test satellites were repositioned, recalibrated, and even redesigned specifically to observe the center, the result never changed. The data didn't corrupt, it simply never arrived, as if the signal was intercepted mid-flight. And then came the internal classifications. The center wasn't labeled unknown, it was labeled non-observable. That term doesn't mean difficult to see. It means observation is actively prevented. Some insiders claim the center sits beneath a permanent electromagnetic anomaly, one that bends space just enough to scramble imaging systems. But if that were true, aircraft and ground sensors would experience the same distortion. They don't. Only systems looking down from above are affected, which implies direction matters, as if whatever is there only hides from the sky. Why hide from above but not from the ground? Unless the threat doesn't come from humans, unless it comes from something else that observes from orbit. Something satellites were never built to protect us from, but accidentally revealed. One suppressed theory suggests the center functions as a signal shadow, a region where external surveillance, human or otherwise, cannot penetrate. A blind spot, not for our sake. For its own ancient legends hint at this idea. They describe a navel of the world that gods themselves could not watch. A place shielded from the heavens, accessible only to those who walked the surface. Modern physicists dismiss mythology, but they can't explain why the center behaves exactly like a cloaked zone, or why its dimensions remain mathematically precise. Natural features don't form perfect boundaries, engineered ones do. Another troubling detail comes from satellite behavior near the center. Telemetry logs show micro-adjustments in orientation, tiny course corrections made without command input, as if the satellite is being gently nudged away, not forced, redirected, like an invisible hand guiding it aside. AI-controlled satellites show an even stranger response. Their decision-making trees reroute imaging priorities automatically when approaching the center. No error flagged, no alarm triggered, just avoidance, as if the AI has learned something humans haven't. And here's where the story turns darker. Several intelligence agencies reportedly attempted to bypass satellite limitations by using suborbital platforms, high-altitude balloons, stratospheric drones, temporary observation systems hovering just below orbital height, all failed. The closer they got to looking straight down, the less in technical reports that never reaches the public. When satellites pass near the center, their onboard clocks don't just drift. They briefly desynchronize from Earth time. Not lag, not acceleration, desynchronization. Two identical satellites passing the same point seconds apart will report different timestamps for the same moment. Physics doesn't allow that, unless time itself behaves differently there. Some physicists suspect the center sits above a localized distortion in space-time. Not a dramatic one, not a tear. A fold, subtle enough to escape detection, powerful enough to confuse machines. Which explains why satellites fail first. They rely on precision timing. Nanoseconds matter. Humans don't notice those shifts. Machines do. That's also why ground expeditions never provide clear answers. Every team that has attempted to reach the center on foot reports the same thing. They never arrive, not because they get lost. Because the distance changes, GPS systems show progress. Maps say they're close, but visually, the landscape never gets nearer, like walking toward a horizon that retreats at the same pace. One explorer described it as approaching something that refuses to be approached. Eventually, expeditions are forced to turn back. Supplies run low, instruments malfunction, and then there's the psychological effect, from all directions at once, which brings us to the strangest historical coincidence. Several ancient cultures marked a center of the world that wasn't meant to be occupied, only acknowledged, a place described as hollow, silent, and forbidden. Not because it was dangerous, but because it didn't belong to humans. These cultures warned that looking down upon it from the sky would anger the watchers. At the time, this made no sense. No one could see from the sky, until now. Modern satellites may have unknowingly crossed a boundary that existed long before them. And the system responded not violently, politely, by refusing cooperation. One leaked aerospace memo summarized decades of failed observation attempts in a single sentence. The center complies with avoidance, not confrontation. In other words, it doesn't attack, it doesn't jam. It simply refuses to be seen, which suggests intelligence. something that understands observation and chooses not to participate. And here's the detail that unsettles even hardened analysts. If the center can hide itself from satellites, then it can likely hide other things as well. Entire structures, movements, activities, a blind zone on a planetary scale, which raises a terrifying possibility. What if the center isn't empty? What if it's occupied? And what if it has always been active, but only recently noticed, because humanity finally built eyes sharp enough to realize they were being blocked? If satellites are the first technology capable of noticing the absence, then perhaps the absence was always there, waiting not to be discovered, but to be respected. Because some places on Earth aren't secrets, they're boundaries. And boundaries don't exist to keep people out. They exist to keep something else in. There's one last layer to this mystery that almost no one talks about, because to acknowledge it would mean admitting something terrifying. Satellite failures near the center didn't begin randomly. They began after a specific upgrade, when agencies started using adaptive imaging, AI-assisted systems designed to fill in missing data. The satellites weren't just recording anymore, they were interpreting, and that's when the blackout changed behavior. Instead of blank images, the systems began returning patterns, repeating geometric absences, like something deliberately masking itself, not with invisibility, but with misdirection. Engineers noticed that the AI kept trying to reconstruct what should be there, and every time it did, the same impossible shapes emerged. Circles that weren't round, lines that bent without curves, structures that suggested depth where none should exist. The AI flagged them as errors. But when different satellites built by different nations running different software all produced the same errors, they stopped calling it malfunction. One internal briefing asked a question that was never answered. How do you hide something from a system designed to see everything? The unsettling implication: you don't hide from the sensor. You hide from the rules of perception the sensor relies on. As if whatever exists at the center doesn't occupy space the way we understand it. Something in between. That explains another mystery. Why seismic data near the center is inconsistent, as if they hit something that changes form as they pass through. And then there are the sounds. Deep frequency recordings taken thousands of kilometers away detect a constant signal, a sustained low vibration, barely above background noise. Others noticed something chilling. The frequency slowly changes. Which brings us to the final suppressed theory. The reason satellites can't see the center isn't because something is blocking them. It's because something is looking back. Observation isn't one-sided. To see is to interact. And perhaps the center doesn't want interaction. Not yet. One classified note buried at the end of a decades-old report reads, "Direct observation may constitute a form of contact." Projects were quietly reassigned, and the center returned to silence. But here's the part no one can erase. Even when satellites avoid the center, even when imaging is turned away, even when instruments are powered down, signals still bend, the blind spot still exists, which means whatever is there doesn't rely on being observed to function. It doesn't need us, it never did. And maybe that's the most disturbing truth of all. Not that satellites can't see the center of Antarctica, but that the center has no interest in being seen. Because some things don't hide out of fear, and if that control ever changes, if observation becomes unavoidable, then humanity may finally learn why the center was never meant to be shown. Not because it would shock us, but because it would explain us. And this is where the story truly ends. Not with answers, but with a warning. Because while satellites can't see the center, humans eventually tried something else. They stopped looking from above. They went underground. Autonomous drills were deployed under the ice. Machines designed to operate without light, without signals, without human presence. The first drill reached depth, then went silent. The second transmitted data for exactly 11 seconds. Enough time to record something impossible. Not rock, not ice. A sudden drop in resistance, a hollow space, and inside it, a return signal. Not an echo, a reply. The frequency matched nothing natural. It wasn't random, it wasn't noise. It was structured, intentional. After that, the drills were recalled, the data was sealed, and the final directive was issued. Cease all center-focused activity indefinitely. No explanation, no public record. Just silence. Today, satellites still avoid that location. Aircraft still reroute. Research permits are still denied. And the blind spot remains, unchanged, untouched, unexplained. Which leaves us with one last question. If nothing is there, why does the world behave as if something is watching? Maybe the center isn't hidden, maybe it's waiting. And maybe the reason we can't see it is because once we do, it will finally see us. The truth doesn't end here. It waits behind the veil.